So now let's start trying to glue things together. We have find smallest, we have swap. So all that we need to do is actually make some calls. So to find the smallest item, we'll do string smallest equals find smallest x. Then we have swap, where we're going to try and swap x. Wait a sec. Okay. So we start running into a little trouble here, right? Because we realize that swap is supposed to take two integers, and we are trying to supply a string. So we have like an API mismatch here, basically. Our interfaces, they're not connecting. We weren't really thinking all the way through, but that's fine. I mean, that happens sometimes in the course of development. You build two helper pieces and they don't quite fit together. So to make them fit, we could change swap so it takes strings, but I think the more natural approach is to change find smallest so that it returns the index of the smallest string in x. So we'll come back to this in a moment. Comment those out for a moment. So now this should be returning the index of the smallest. Oops. And this is a pretty easy fix. All I need to do is return smallest index, and I need to modify my test so that it tests appropriately. So in this case, instead of string actual, instead of the actual and expected being strings, the expected will be a number. So expected should be 2. Okay, so that's not such a big deal. And then for the second test, the expected should be 1. And these should be ints. Okay, and this kind of thing happens. And we'll do test find smallest again because we just changed a bunch of stuff. We might be a little nervous that it works. We can leave test swap in too, I guess. We run both of these, and it works. Okay, so our change, what just happened there? So our change here, this has made our code seemingly better, and it works. And even though we did a bunch of stuff kind of fast, we had the testing there as a scaffolding to make sure we just have this confidence that everything's still working, okay? So now that we've done that, we can continue along the way, and we could say int smallest index equals find smallest, swap 0 smallest index, and we'll have a little bit more to puzzle about in a moment. But before we get to what happens next, let's reflect a little bit on what we've achieved so far. So far, what we've done, just to walk through everything we've done, we wrote test sort. Then we wrote a little bit of what we thought sort should look like, just the skeleton of it. We had some comments. We then wrote test find smallest because we knew we needed a find smallest method. And then we actually created the find smallest method. And along the way, you noticed we used Google to figure out how to compare strings. Okay, that was nice. And that's, of course, a very important skill. It doesn't have to be Google, by the way. You can use DuckDuckGo or Bing or whatever you want, but I just defaulted to Google because they have the most mind share in my brain. Then we got to swap, where we wrote a test swap method. That's the next piece we needed from our skeleton. Then we wrote a swap method. And then when we tried to glue our two helper methods together, we realized, we've made a terrible mistake. So we had to change find smallest. And we had to modify the test for find smallest, not shown here. Oh, and by the way, when we were working on our swap method, we used the debugger to fix what was kind of a silly error. So again, at this point, we have all the helper methods we need, it seems, as well as the tests we need to make ourselves confident that those helper methods function. And so that will make this next step of gluing everything together easier because we have confidence in the basic pieces.